This is Talking My Walking. I'm Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about why I am an anti-capitalist. Why capitalism sucks. So, the main reason why I am an anti-capitalist is because it's not because capitalism doesn't work. It's not because capitalism is not doesn't bring innovation and so many things that capitalism can really be very productive and can make our lives, can create a lot of consumer goods. The two main reasons or points that why I am anti-capitalist, it is because the accumulation of wealth, unlimited accumulation of wealth, which brings concentration of power, and as everybody knows, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this is the main point, one of the main points, the unlimited accumulation of wealth, and all the narrative that goes with it. Because if you start, like if you start a small business, like a family business, and then it starts to grow, and you are a very diligent person, and you want to expand your business, and then you work hard and you make your business work, and you open, if it depends if which area or which sector of the economy you work, you are innovative, and then you can, your company grows and grows and grows, and you deserve your wealth. You deserve the wealth because it was it comes from your own sacrifice, your skills. So it should belong to you. And this is, of course, this makes sense, it's logical. And most people, or at least a lot of people, agrees with it. In spite of all the evidence that when the accumulation of wealth, the extreme accumulation of wealth brings extreme inequality and brings a lot of problems, not only economic, but social and political problems, and in the end leads us to fascism, to some sort of fascism, whether implicit or explicit. The other point is the private property problem. Another point very important. Why should everything be privatized and commodified? Why should we be allowed to own as much land as we want, as many properties as we can, just because, again, based on the same principle, for as long as we earn our wealth and we accumulate capital enough to buy, or we have access to credit that allows us to buy property, real estate, or whatever it is, we should, we have the money is ours, so we should buy whatever we want to buy for as long as we have the means to pay for it. No, all the luxuries and everything else, but especially the private property problem and the proprietary rights in general. It is again a perversion. It seems that it makes sense, but again, just because it makes sense, it doesn't mean that we should you should not at least have put a ceiling on it, and that is one of the main reasons why I cannot agree with the capitalist system. The idea that free, deregulated markets are the best way to organize an economy is again, all these concepts and ideas, they make sense, but they don't work like that, because when the state is when the intervention of the state shrinks, which means that we cut the social services, the universal basic services, and we privatize them. Okay, so the service become when when a service is privatized, it means that it is going to is for profit. Okay, the company wants to make profit, and to make profit you need to be efficient. Okay, that's why the principle of the efficiency. That's why they always use the concept of efficiency to make the services more efficient, because the state is it wastes resources. The state doesn't supposedly the state can never allocate the resources, human resources, material resources, technological resources, with the same efficiency as the private sector. Okay, so that is debatable, of course. There are cases where the state can. The reason the state can be can be more wasteful is when people do not feel the responsibility, are not punished when by being irresponsible, or by being neglecting their duties. So there is always the need. Doesn't mean it doesn't matter capitalism, socialism, or whatever kind of system, economic and political system. Responsibility needs always, and accountability needs to be effective. That needs to be effective. Yeah, that is something that needs to be effective. Because efficiency, people believing that something just because it's for profit and privatized is efficient, is of course nonsense. There are so many, and this and it doesn't provide. And the problem is because when the economy is organized only around for-profit corporations and businesses, there is always a part of the society, a percentage of the society, and by society I mean society and environment. When I mean, which means people, animals, nature, that are simply left out. Why? Because what is not profitable, it doesn't exist. It's just an externality, and this is why we can see in many countries, almost in every country, where the state stops providing, or the state doesn't provide the social services, the universal basic services, in what it means in the reality is that nature, animals, and people are a lot of, not only the ones that have the money can they have access to the best services, and the other ones just have to suffer and to be neglected and left behind. And you can see wherever you travel around the world, you can find this reality. You can find this reality, and you can find this gap between the people and even the animals that you can see everywhere, just because they even have owners. I mean, there are so many dogs and cats and and the other domestic animals, but also nature and rivers and the environment and everything else that are neglected because nobody feels responsible for that, because it's not profitable. You know, if the family owns animals but they don't have the money to pay for the veterinarian bills, the animals will be neglected because they don't get enough food. Also, the problem is also cultural. I know that. That's always an element of culture, a cultural element on all these problems. But the main problem is because a true capitalist system, a free market capitalist system, just doesn't care of anything that is out of the market. If you don't ever, what is not commodified doesn't exist. If people don't have money, if there is no profit to be made, it doesn't exist. So then what do you have in replacement of the state? To replace the state in a capitalist system, you have the so-called non-profitable industrial complex. What I call, not only me, but there is a non-profitable industrial complex, which means that there are charities and foundations and government agencies that fund private organizations or public-private partnerships where the government puts the money and the private organizations make probably some profit, or if not profit, at least there are people with interests involved in it. So, and they replace the state, but they don't solve the problems. Look, they solve, they help, they feel, they can mitigate some of the needs. You know, it can be some of the needs that are not provided by the state, that are not satisfied by the state, like in educational universal basic service in education and health and animal care and everything else that is needed for a functional society and ecological protection. These organizations can mitigate part of the problem, but they depend on funds. Where does those funds come from? You know, those funds are not even. They come from private entities. Most of them, not only from private entities, but they should be the money. Usually, this is the money that should be paid in taxes to the state. Okay? So, besides the money, the wealthy people can hide in fiscal paradises and through trusts and through a lot of scams. Besides that, they can use the money that should be paid in taxes to fund these organizations to look good, philanthropic, because they are the funders of philanthropic enterprises, which I have nothing against it. I mean, just because I'm explaining this reality, trying to describe this reality, it doesn't mean that I'm against these organizations. It does mean just this is already a perversion because of the capitalistic system. Just look at this. The system, the branches just going down into, yeah. We do not stop seeing the problems just because these private organizations, non-profit in the non-profit industrial complex, we don't stop seeing they do not solve the problems that exist in society and in the environment, because the state, because they cannot replace the state, and if they replace the state completely, then we have fascism, because everything is going to be run by private corporations. This is fascism. Fascism is the merging, is when the private sector runs the state. That is fascism. Can be, I mean, maybe now that's what we are headed to, techno-fascism, exactly because it's the tech oligarchs that want to run the state. They are against the state. They have a narrative against the state. It's always about to cut the state, the waste, the way. Is it a lie that the state? But what kind of state? What, that state has been capitalistic for so long. Okay? The state, it doesn't matter, like in a country like the United States of America, there's two parties. These two parties is not left versus right. That's, again, I have to repeat again and again, that is just a stupid idea. That is the most stupid, one of the stupidest ideas ever. It's two capitalist parties. You tell me if they are different, those parties are different because it's necessary not only to give the illusion of democracy, but because it's necessary, because the people are different, they have different cultural identities, and they see things in different perspective, and they have different groups. But in the end, they are funded by the same people. It is just so. And why is the state? They blame each other for the problems both of them create. But of course they have to say that all the problems are created by the other side, and vice versa, in order to justify the duopoly. You know, there is a duopoly, but there is only that is only one system, and that system is called capitalism and free market, which is exactly what I was trying to say. That is the endless accumulation of wealth and the endless accumulation of private property, concentration of private property, and power and control. In the private sector, which means the state, instead of being a collective, the state being controlled by the demos, it is controlled by a very few elite, very small elite, with a few oligarchs and plutocrats running the system through whatever means. And this is capitalism that doesn't work for us, and not because it's not productive, or this is not because it has not bring all the innovations but it's also with a huge cost. Because when innovation and scientific advancements are basically for profit, you know, that's why we have the world controlled by, you can see the influence in American imperialism by the military-industrial complex, together with Wall Street. Who really runs? You have big oil, big pharma, big egg, big AG, or whatever you call it. You have to understand that English is, I care about substance, I don't care about style, or about form, or about anything that looks nice. I care about substance, and what I'm trying to do with this talking my waltz is to really think about, to give some substance, is to go to the core of the problems in my own way. It might be not perfect, it might have a lot of grammar mistakes, and not be as fluent and as clean as I would like it to be, but it's what it is. I think substance is what matters, or should be what really matters. So that's why this is just to say that for if you look for substance, you should try to bear with me, to be to tolerate my language inconsistencies. That's my point. Um, so the main point is capitalism is always, it always will be, it is not, it always will be a system that it has to be expansionist, imperialist, because it has to grow. It is inspired. It is motivated by greed. It is motivated by psychopathic, megalomaniac. It's driven by that. It's driven by people with these characteristics. They want to control everything. They want to own everything. They really want to control the world. That was the purpose. Most of the 20th century and part of the 21st century, it has been the project of the United States of America to dictate the world governance. You know, that was the purpose of the American empire, to become a global empire, to be forever, or at least for a long time, to create to have a unipolar world controlled by the United States and the so-called allies. And with a single system, okay, the so-called rules-based international order, geopolitical order controlled by them, by dictating the governance from Washington and Wall Street, you know. So this is not fantasy. This was the intention of the deep state and the permanent bureaucracy of the American state, the American elite, to control the world, to not allow, this is written, this is documented, to not allow any nation to become adversary of the United States. That's why China is the main problem. It's not Russia, it's China. China is the, it is a peer. It has become too powerful to be tolerated. So, and that's why we are in this in a moment of it's not only about multipolarity against unipolarity, it's a kind of a moment of truth where the world is at crossroads, and that's why we should discuss what kind of civilization and economic system we want to have. That should be part of our discussion, of the public discussion everywhere around the world. You know, not to abolish the state, not to demonize the state, not believing that we can function. Where are they? I can listen to bees. Maybe there is a beehive in the tree, in that big tree. I don't see it. Okay. Never mind. Okay. So because we need to rethink the way we understand capitalism, not as a inevitable reality, not as a system that cannot be replaced. That because regulation doesn't work, because every time regulations, because the capitalist system is the incentive, the profit incentive, and the private ownership incentive, and the private wealth accumulation, that everybody understands that everything we can achieve in life, it has to be achieved with money, with some sort of capital accumulation. We need capital. Okay? So, for most of us, is money, the money that we get from our professional life, from professional activity. That's how we. So we need to. We understand it. We all understand it. We all understand. We don't need to talk to discuss it. We just know it. That between us and whatever we need or want in life, there will be money. It can be in the form of credit, so you can buy something just to by going into debt. So you become what you own is the debt, because if the house or the car that you are using, that you can, it's not yours, is the only thing that is yours is the debt. Otherwise you easily lose what you believe it's yours. Okay, it's good that you can use it, but you should never but you should always keep in mind that what you really own is the debt. And most of us will live our lives in a capitalist system. We'll live our lives always indebted, some sort of debt. Okay, so that's why this system, that is based, again, it's another feature of the capitalist system, is based on debt. Because debt, as people should understand also, it is how new money is created. New money, most new money that exists, that comes into existence in our capitalist system, is created by debt. That means that every time some body, some institution, organization, corporation, or even government goes into debt, new money is created into existence. And by the private sector actually, because central banks, they create reserves. Reserves is another form of money, not the money that is in the commercial banking system. Reserves, most of it to allow banks to have liquidity. They need reserves. That's a different form of money. And then we have the banknotes, which is another form of money. So we have the digital money, which is the money that is created through that, through it's called credit creation, and this is digital money. We should not confuse it with CBDCs. That is also digital currency, but it's a different form of money, because the central bank digital currency is an attempt that we all would become. We would all have our accounts with central banks. So the central bank digital currency will become the main currency of the system. Should the central banks kind of competing with commercial banks. I do not know. I'm not going into if it's good or bad, or I have been listening to people, of course, to people that are against it, because they believe it's a trap. It's for control, for social control, and so forth and so on. But the fact is, the system we already have, it has a lot of control. They know everything about your finances. I'm not saying that because I don't have a position. So I don't have a definitive stance on this issue. But we are already controlled. The only little freedom we have now, it's not gold. Forget about gold. That is another. Gold is not the solution. Forget about it. Bitcoin is not the solution. Bitcoin is another scam. It is a Ponzi scheme. Is a chair dance. I believe that Bitcoin it will end badly. It is not even money, that should not, because, oh my gosh, that's another capitalist dream, our financial freedom. We should have, what is financial freedom? For the ones that don't own any form of capital, don't have assets, don't have. Financial freedom is that you can have access to the needs, to the basic needs, to satisfy your basic needs, and to have access to the universal basic services that we all need. That would be financial freedom, because it's not freedom through financial. We already thinking that we need finance, that we have access to some sort of freedom through finance. This is already this already tells us where we are. And I see smart people defending this kind of, there is a lot of smart people that believe in financial, that blockchain and Bitcoin is a way to enjoy financial freedom. Against the state, against the government. No. For as long as the government is controlled by the capitalist class, it doesn't matter. Classical oligarchs and plutocrats, or tech oligarchs, or whoever it is, we won't have any freedom. They will always be able to take away our assets, to just say, okay, that now I don't remember the word now, to to freeze our assets or to just take over them. So freedom has nothing to do with that. Freedom has to do either we, the demos, have power or not, have political agency or not. And capitalist system, we will never be allowed to have political agency, because the political agency will always be as it was in the past. You know, you remember, only the wealthy could vote, the good families. Okay, it was also about the women who could not vote. But you know, if you were poor, and it is the same now. Just because we vote now, we can vote now, it is just bullshit, because it doesn't change anything in our lives. So we don't have political agency. If the power of the vote doesn't change our reality, is not able to change our reality, to change our societal reality, so the vote is meaningless. And then, if the vote is now allowing us to put the far right, and some fascistic factions of the far right into power, they are not going. The capitalist system will be the problems that we have will not going away. The roots of the problems. This is just another. This is just real. I mean, it is not. It is just illusions. So that is also part of the growth problem. You know, without that, the capitalist system also doesn't work, because the money, the amount of money in the economy is dictated by debt. You need more money, new money in the economy. It's new debt. So it is another feature of capitalism, which is crazy, that you know, all people say, oh, debt is not good and blah blah blah. You know that, but that is a feature of capitalism. Somebody somewhere needs to go into debt to grow the money, to add new money into the economy. While taxes is the way to destroy money. I mean, the taxes is the way the government takes away excessive money in the economy. That's why, you know, when it was much higher, I don't remember, I don't have the numbers in my mind, but not right now, but it used to be much higher, the taxes on businesses and on wealth, you know, which makes sense. If you want if you want to have a leash on capitalism, you need to do it through taxes and regulation. And you cannot allow the financial system, you cannot allow the banking system to to run free without regulations. You know, the abolition of the Glass-Steagall Act by Mr. Clinton, it was the beginning of the 2008 catastrophe. But it was not a catastrophe for the oligarchs and plutocrats. It was a catastrophe for Main Street, not for Wall Street. And that's the problem. You know? Because they were not allowed to merge. You know, the commercial banking with the investment banking was not allowed to collude with each other. And it just was that was repealed. The Glass-Steagall Act was repealed. I think it was in 1999, if I'm not mistaken. This is the only way. It doesn't solve the problem because it is always like that. The wealthy class has always the upper end in how, because they finance the political process. They select, because before election there is always a selection, and that selection, the ones that really will have the support and and be promoted and advertised and publicly will be the ones that the elites know that they will become their servants. They will play according to the rules of capitalism. They will not change anything, because we have managed democracy. We don't have participatory democracy or even a representative democracy. We have just a managed democracy, because the capitalist class is able to select the ones that are allowed to be electable, to become presidents or even other positions. So this even people that believe that Trump is an outsider, I mean, it's just, I mean, how can it might be Trump is I mean, Trump is part of the system. Trump is an oligarch. Trump is part of the capitalist class. How can you believe that he is going to change anything in a fundamental way? That's what these guys say. That's again. They try. They have like Elon Musk. They just try to demonize the state, but in order to do the reforms, they want that they will give them more power over the state. And this idea that they are just doing the right thing, which is to try, again I'm going back to the same subject, to get rid of institutions that are a waste of money. So it's kind, they look like if they are doing something to clean the deep state and the permanent bureaucracy But what they are doing is to taking over, even taking over the state. Because, the deep state, for many people, they might think it is something hidden. That the deep state is entities working from the shades, in the background. But it's not real like that. There are some entities and institutions and organizations that are part of the deep state. They are not very public. They do not show up often in the public sphere, but there are others, like Elon Musk. People might not understand it or but Elon Musk is part of the deep. Is already part of this deep state. Peter Thiel is part of the deep state, and so many others in the corporate world. In this new group, is this tech oligarchs, that is a new form of oligarchy that has emerged with the fourth industrial revolution. So if we believe that that these people are cleaning the system, and this is just an illusion. This is just theater, political theater. When I say this, it's not. Is it that among what they are doing might not be something useful? Of course. Every time somebody does something that the objective, the goal, is just to have control over something, it doesn't mean that what the measures that are being taken are all bad. But the objective itself, this is the point, is not good. Is not for the collective good. My point, as more and more control, they talk about freedom. They have this idea of tech libertarianism. They want to free the world through technology, but no, people are going to be more enslaved. And again, it's always money that dictates what you can have or have not in society. If you have a house, a roof over your head, or enough food, or you can get an education for your children, or the health of the animals, or everything else, is dictated by money, not by the amount of money that there is in the society, because the amount of money is the money that exists in the world. Because again, money is it's part of a virtual reality. Money, you can say that you have physical coins, or you have the physical money, that we can use. That's the only form of money that is kind of free, because you can exchange it for goods and services, and we don't need to give our identity. So that's the only way, that's still the only way that we can have some financial freedom. That financial freedom that people talk about, there is only way to have it. It's for as long as we can use physical cash. For as long as we can use cash, we can exchange We can buy and sell goods and services without a record. That's the only way. And even if there is an invoice where our name goes in it, we cannot already avoid it, even with cash, if we pay with cash, for as long as our identity is involved. We only can escape it if we really can do it without your name being required. Our identity, and by name I mean our identity card, our fiscal number, whatever can identify us, there is a record of it. So this is only illusions. That's why we have a managed democracy mainly based on illusions that they have to manage, like Obama said, open change. They just have to be able to manage, to keep our hopes that we hope that they are changing something, but they are just giving an illusion, because they are not changing the structural problems. They are not addressing the structural problems. They are not confronting power. These people, they are not confronting power because, again, they belong to the circle. They belong to the club. The ones that are not in the club is us, because we don't have any political agency, and we are just feeding. We are just being disempowered more and more. I mean, do you think that Trump and Elon Musk and all and Vance, it's Mike, I think it's Mike Vance, and Rubio, and all the rest of the gang, they are going to empower us? They are going to bring back the jobs? Okay, they might bring some jobs, but it's just a few, just a small, and they are going to make more people, instead of establish a cooperation to set an international, because that's what we need. We need an international platform, and with institutions and organizations that makes the countries cooperate to create a balanced system of trade, international trade, production, exchange. No, they have been the ones, the United States of America, they have been the ones responsible for the imbalance, not China. The trade imbalance and the situation, it has been the responsibility of Wall Street. And by these companies that instead that are buying back their stock in order to inflate the prices. This is just schemes. This is nothing good for the real economy. And these measures that these people are thinking, that these people are telling us that they are doing now to bring back good jobs and re-industrialize the country, this is just bullshit. I mean, they are going to create inflation. They are going, the lives of millions and millions of Americans are going to feel more austerity, are going to become worse, not bad. The lives are going to be, the livelihoods are going to be worsened. but they are not talking to these people. This is just management. This is a managed democracy, which means that it's just about illusions, just about creating the illusion that some change is on the way until the next election cycle. And the real lives of real people and the real economy, not the financialized economy, not the financial economy, this parasitic economy, is going to get worse. Unless there will be changes as I said, to the capitalist system itself, and there can come an agreement instead of this dispute, of this attempt by the United States to somehow use proxies, because it's always about using proxies, okay? Direct war with China is unwinnable, all right? Because unless it's just total destruction, nuclear annihilation. So, the United States of America, the deep state and the permanent bureaucracy and these tech oligarchs and all these people, in spite you can say, okay, they have business in, like, there is a huge, in Shanghai, in the Shanghai region, there is a huge Tesla production line, a factory, a giga factory, or whatever you call it. So these people, they are all in bed. That's also bullshit. They are not all in bed. They have corporate interests. There are corporate interests, and there are even partnerships and all the rest. But that is one thing. That is one part that is not, in terms of geopolitical rivalry, okay, the so-called great power competition. These people are fighting. They want a unipolar world. This is not about this, and this unipolar world should be controlled by the West, specifically by the American elites. But of course, there might be people from other countries, as long as they are cooperative, as long as they are, as long as they, because if they not, I mean, as long as they participate in the Hegemon project, because if they don't, they will be out, they will be gone, they will be destroyed. So they are allowed to participate. It doesn't matter the color of your skin or your culture or whatever, wherever you come from. Of course, if you are willing to be part of the project, unipolar project, you'll be accepted. But it doesn't mean that your country, it doesn't mean that just because there is oligarchs from Russia, or oligarchs from China, or oligarchs from somewhere else, from the BRIC countries, that are in bed with the Western oligarchy and plutocracy, that just because of that the countries itself are part of this. That's something people do not understand. That is not necessarily the same thing. It's the fight is real. The fight for control is real. And in the case, the present case, it is not China that wants to control the world. It might be, in my perspective, I don't know the future. It might happen that, but it is real. It is irrealistic. Because we have to think about India India is not as powerful as China, but India, but they can, but it would be a disaster for the humanity if China would want to control humanity, because it would create, it would have to go into, unless they would partnership with India, for example. That would be only the only way. That would be the BRICS nations to come together. For example, let's say Russia, China, and India together, which I find irrealistic, and say, okay, we are going to conquer the world. But who is going to lead it? None of them want to be led by the others. That's the point. They might be together, but they do not want to lose their sovereignty. They want to be led by the Chinese, or the Indians don't want to be led by the Chinese, or vice versa. So it is unrealistic that the Chinese, doesn't matter how powerful they become, they will be able to control the world. And they probably, they are aware of it. They are not as the levels of delusional hubris of the West is not possible for. It's no other countries, no other part of the world where these levels are so out of control. So the idea is that the political establishment and the oligarchs and plutocrats and the deep state and whoever is really in control of the US establishment, they do not want to lose control of, they just want to keep their unipolarity and and they know the only way it's to I do not find the right word now. It's to fight China. It's to try. I'm sorry, I don't find the right word. It's to not allow China to be more influential than it already is. So that's why they don't want to confront China directly, but they want to use all the proxies possible. Philippines, they want to mess everywhere, in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Malaysia, all the case of Taiwan and everything else. They just want to use all the proxies possible that they can use against China, to weaken China economically, politically, and to use them as pawns in military terms. So this is how the United States operates. So to think that they are all in bed is just delusional. This is real. This fight, the fight that is going on now, to deter China by all means possible, even in the Middle East. What's going on, even in Iran, it is also part of that. It, of course, they don't want Iran to be a nuclear power for the obvious reasons. They want Israel to be the only country in the Middle East with nuclear weapons. So they don't want to that, because I'm going to say it again. If Iran would be able to become a nuclear power, to become part of that exclusive group of the nations that have nuclear weapons, so who would Saudi Arabia and Turkey and other countries would also to become. So that's they don't want this nuclear proliferation. So this is one of the reasons, because they would just lose control of the Middle East. So and Israel would have to become just one nation, not the nation that controls the Middle East through American. So America controls Israel, Israel controls America. That is just doesn't matter who controls who. Just matters that Israel is the country, a small country, but as the nuclear deterrence, it is the only one with that powerful weapon. That is a political weapon, a military weapon, strategic weapon, geopolitical weapon. So it is, besides being a powerful army, and technologically, with all the advanced weapon systems, it also has the power of the nuclear deterrence. So that's why they want also it. They want to make sure that Iran is not able to develop nuclear weapons. But it is also part of that larger project of the Third China. So it includes the objective of deter China, which is obvious, and China and also Russia. So this sometimes is not easy to understand, because this is operating in multi levels, and we live in a moment of a polycrisis, or I mean, it doesn't matter what kind. It is a lot of things going on that in order to put it in context, is very difficult, but we can make sense out of it. It is possible. It's not impossible to make sense out of all this and not fall for without the need to fall for very light explanations and some misinformation that comes especially from some right-wing media. I mean, there's these people. They are so anti-China, and anti-Russia as well, but especially anti-China and the communist China and China this and China that. They don't understand that. I mean, I don't know if they don't. They do understand. Some of them understand. They are just doing what they are supposed to do to demonize China. For the domestic audience, because this is all about controlling the perception management of the public, and that's why it's crazy, because so many people buy into the the ideas of this right wing, because they are against the government. The government is bad. They demonize the state. They try to make people again, because the politicians are bad. And they use as if we have been living in in what kind of reality have we been living all these decades? From, let's say, since the end of the Second World War, or so, which means for 7 decades, you know. Where have we been living? What kind of system did we have? Why was capitalism working for several decades, and why is not working anymore? You know, because it was regulated, and it was based on industrial capitalism. So it was producing goods and services. There was speculation. There was I'm not saying that it was a perfect world, but at least we could see this the productive side of the capitalism, controlled by the state, controlled by the government, which means not merged with the government, which is it's a completely different thing. That's why we now are going to have, why we are going towards fascism, because the state is privatized. So the state was, for a few decades, the governments were able to, that's why it's called social democracy, because there are regulations. The state was able to keep the capitalist class at bay, which means that they were influential, but they were not in total control. And now, I mean, since the 80s, the capitalist class, through the neoliberal policies, just took control of the state. So this is fascism. I mean, we should see, understand our reality, not through these lies they tell you that we have been, that is always whatever is wrong is because of the left. This is a lie, a blatant lie that is easily debunkable. We can debunk it pretty easily. But through the merger of the state, the total control of the state by the financial system, by financial capitalism. It was the financialization of the economy and the deregulation and all the processes that that has the delocalization of jobs and the production and everything else that happened throughout all these decades, that have been weakening our economies and destroying the fabric of society, because it has been a slow process. This reality has been paving the way to techno-fascism, and now it's paving the way to techno-fascism, which is even crazier, because these people, these techno oligarchs, are just crazy. These people are crazy. So this is the reality. This is not fiction, and so we should, I mean, I know many people will say, oh, but capitalism is not perfect. There's so many mistakes, but is much better than socialism. Socialism doesn't work. It has been proved, and communist China only developed when it started to become a market economy and open its economy to foreign investment and so on and so forth. And you can see the problems in Venezuela, in North Korea, and here and there. I mean, it's if we try to if we want to tell ourselves that we need to, there is TINA, there is no alternative, okay? There is no alternative because whatever has been tried has failed. So capitalism, whether we like it or not, it has to be the default system. So otherwise we might even if we try to change it, or if we try to create a new system or discuss it, it might be even worse because okay, you know, the experiences, it seems that it doesn't work. Socialism doesn't work, communism doesn't work. I mean, in my opinion, it's too. We are defeating ourselves already if we just think that we cannot find any other way of organizing a society and an economy, but through capitalist principles, which, as I say, the primacy of private property and wealth accumulation, unlimited, okay? That is already something extraordinary that we can limit ourselves to, that we do not have the ability or the imagination to come up with a different system. Of course, we don't have the upper end. And why we don't have the upper end? Because we don't have the means, the resources. They are controlled by the capitalist class. So we have to fight the system without having the means to do it. So it's already we are really in a position and that is a fact. So it is very difficult for us, the humanity in general, to unite and organize. So it means that to overcome all the divisions and everything else that makes it very difficult to unite against a capitalist class that is also divided. I do not say they are all there are only one single group. Of course, they have divisions among them. But they have power, they have money, they control the institutions, they control everything. So we are really that is really the weakest point. Because just saying that we cannot think about a different system, that we could not really have a democratic system and a better functional, more humane and ecological, economic and political system is not true. We can and we should do it, but it is really hard and difficult, but it's not impossible. So as you can see, I'm arriving to where I have my motorbike, to the gate where I started my walk. So I'm going to finish here for today. Thank you for listening.